Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. I don't think we'll be here more than an hour. And let's see, what else do I usually say? Thank you for being first, Fancy Fancy, which I'm just assuming I didn't even look. But if it wasn't Fancy Fancy, thank you too. Okay. Helen Marmon, thank you for being first. I did check. Okay. Okay. All right, there we go. Had to try to figure out where that sound was coming from. Got it. Got it. Did you guys know? Well, just asking, um, how many of y'all were fans of the Beverly Hillbillies? The Beverly Hillbillies? Who was a fan of that show? Um, Cousin Pearl. Cousin Pearl. Um, oh gosh, what was her name in real life? Her real name was B. Baratat, something like that. Anyway, she had passed away in 1968. Um, so, they never mentioned whatever happened to Cousin Pearl, but she went to go and work on a different series, Petticoat Junction. And, sometimes when I look at those old television shows, I like to read up about the cast of the show, right? Just out of curiosity. And um and I always loved Cousin Pearl. Cousin Pearl. That was Jethro's mother, Jethro and Jethrine's mother. I couldn't believe when I read that the lady who played Cousin Pearl, Jethro's mother, actually read for the part of Granny. And they knew they did not want her to play Granny, but they let her audition anyway. They let her read for the part. They wanted somebody who was real skinny, little, and kind of scrappy, which is exactly what Irene Ryan was. I mean, Irene Ryan, I could not imagine somebody else playing Granny. I couldn't imagine it. Kind of like the Golden Girls. B. Arthur, no, not B. Arthur. Oh gosh, who was it? Rue McClanahan, the one that played Blanche, was actually supposed to play Rose, the very naive one, and vice versa. They wanted Betty White to play Blanche Devereaux. And it's so weird because sometimes when people are reading those parts, they instantly know, okay, I'm supposed to play the other person. They just know I'm supposed to play the other person. Even on the television show Friends, Monica was supposed to be Rachel and vice versa. And then at the last minute, they're just like, you want to read this part? So that's always amazing to me because those people really come to define those characters. What else did I need to do? Oh, I think I need to close some of these screens. I got so many things open right now. Let me get rid of some of these screens. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of stalling because I need to close some of these screens. I got too much stuff open, and that's either going to freeze the computer or painfully slow it down. So give me just a second here. That can go. That can go. Don't need that. Yeah, don't need that. And I can get rid of this and this. And gosh, I must have had like 35 screens open. I kid you not. Don't know how that happened. 35 screens I had open. Okay, and we're good. I closed them out. And all right, so let's get on with it. Yeah, I don't think we'll be here more than an hour. Harry and Meghan news. I repurposed the thumbnail. As ever, Meghan. And then, of course, with love, Meghan. Yeah, I love these thumbnails. These are like some of my favorites. Especially, actually, I love both of these. I love both of these. So remember, next month, the products are coming out. I believe they said April. Next month, the products are coming out. I cannot wait. I want one of everything that's available. Oh, you do that too, where you have a bunch of screens open? Well, I was blessed by one of the squatties that sent two, oh gosh, how big are these screens? Are they 27 inches? Yeah, two 27-inch screens. I was shocked. I was shocked. That was a very monumental act of generosity. And because my big computer just is so old, it's not useful anymore. And I was so used to having a 27-inch screen, right? And so I go to my mailbox and there's all these boxes. I'm just like, what the what? So I have two 27-inch screens and I think this is a 16-inch laptop. And so I got all that real estate. Oh my God, that is so convenient. But it just means I open so many more screens, which is necessary sometimes. But by the time I start, I'm just like, okay, I need to close some of these screens out because this is way too much. Yeah, my computer starts getting weird, or sometimes it'll freeze or something. So um, that's why I would say, okay, let me close some of these screens before I start. All right. And so we're going to start off with a soundbite, I think. And now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his friends. Like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. We hope you'll come back someday to this locality and have a heaping helping of this hospitality. Okay, so most vulnerable lose, the billionaires left untouched. The most vulnerable lose, and the billionaires are left untouched. Well, I guess it's happening on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, isn't it? It is literally happening on both sides of the Atlantic, where you have these very wealthy oligarchs and government officials that are deciding to pass laws and legislation that will take a scalpel to the working class and poor and pretty much leave the wealthy people alone. Okay. And oh no, that's wrong. Try that again.
Happy Thursday, and I continue.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold
Morning,
on.
friends.
Yeah. Here we go.
Morning, friends. Happy Saturday. And the amazingly talented illustrator and cartoonist Rob Brown has been at it again. And Rob, thank you so much for making sure I get new material like this before anybody else. It's much appreciated. And today's scene would be absolutely hilarious if it wasn't true. Today's scene revolves around the royal family toasting the government plans with fine wine. And those government plans are to target the most vulnerable people in society, the long-term sick and the long-term disabled, by taking money out of their benefit payments, whilst the royal family, Charles and William, continue to be left untouched and take tens of millions of pounds a year each from the UK economy. So the government want to pick on the most vulnerable, the people that literally only have just enough money to live on, and turn them back to work. A wheelchair turned into a grass mower combine harvester, a crutch turned into a spade. The most vulnerable are being forced to go back to work or be homeless, literally, whilst the billionaires continue to take tens of millions out of the economy with no questions asked. It's wrong. It's wrong in 2025. It would have been wrong in 1925. It probably happened in 1825. People of the UK, use your voice. Comments are open as ever.
Okay, so that was Martin, who's on TikTok. He has a channel on TikTok called Ministry of Hacks. Connie Bomber. Hey, Connie Bomber. my new favorite toy. Um, thank you so much for being here. And okay, so that's what Martin had to say. And as you can see, this illustration shows Charles and Billy Boy sitting at the saloon or wherever they're taking their drinks. And there is a wheelchair that has a lawnmower. They want people to work for their benefits. And there are some people that is just not possible. But this new draconian wave of making sure that if you can draw a breath, you best find something to do. That's not practical for everyone. In an ideal world, yes, but the thing is, by the time working class people have reached the age of retirement, you don't want to have to keep working. What is the promise of the government, the society? It is the promise that at a certain age you're able to retire. I mean, God, they even let dogs or service animals, yeah, service animals after a certain age, they're not required to work anymore, right? They will retire a service animal. And usually they encourage the person who has a service animal, particularly a dog who is capable of monitoring things like blood sugar and stuff like that. I mean, they know when you're about to have a seizure. Some of those service animals know when your sugar level is too low, those kind of things. But even those dogs are allowed to retire. So people should be able to retire. It doesn't make sense. They want you to work up until age 72 if they can squeeze it out of you. And I mean, let's face it, for most people, your best years are behind you at that point. you want to go around and see everything and do everything you didn't do. And I mean, I can think of a lot of people who retired and died, or people who had all that pension and died before they could retire. As the lady from the island says, give the people back their money. Let's see. The most vulnerable are having their benefits slashed or is unfair. Many of those without the means to work due to disability or mental ill are being made to work. All Brits need to speak out. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When they're collecting from your taxes and for your benefits and such, it's the promise that needs to be kept. Western countries are getting too brown. They're getting too brown. Unfortunately, there's not enough youth, and even the youth that are available to do certain jobs are just not going to do it. But you need to increase your tax base. You need more people to tax. If you keep letting the rich get away without paying tax, and the tax rate on work, like in the US, most working class adults, the tax rate is horrendous if you don't have children. And even if you don't have children, if you're an older person, your taxes are going to help support things like the roads, the sewers, the schools, and such. And then there's a lot of very wealthy people that just don't pay any tax at all. And they're the ones who write the laws. They're the ones who, through lobbyists, introduce the legislation necessary to save them from taxes while everybody else pays. So, yeah, it's the working class people that are paying a higher rate. Even, what's his name? Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway said that he wants his secretary to have the same tax rate that he has, but his secretary does not. The secretary has a tax rate like most working class Americans, and Warren Buffett practically pays no tax. He was brave enough to say that. He's the only billionaire that I ever heard say anything like that. So, by the way, he's a very interesting guy. If you ever get a chance to read about Warren Buffett. Okay, so thank you, Martin. What? Another one? Well, I think we have the time. Here goes.
Very lucky with these Rob Brown cartoons, comic strips, whatever you want to call them, because I'm actually getting them first. And today's scene would be a joy and would be hilarious if it wasn't true. Do you know in the UK you have to pay into your state pension? So you could spend decades paying into your state pension via deductions from your monthly earnings. Yet we have one of the lowest state pensions in the EU. It's absolutely criminal. High tax, low pension. And we treat our pensioners like they are dirt, literally. Today's parody shows pensioners paying tax. Yes, if you're lucky enough to have the state pension and a small private pension, and that takes you above, let me check, £12,570 a year, you have to pay tax. Unbelievable, right? Lowest pension, and it's taxed if you're above a tiny threshold that you can't live on. And that money is sent into the government and redistributed how the government wants it to be redistributed, with a heck of a lot of it going to the British non-working taxpayer-funded royal family. It's literally the inverse of Robin Hood. We are taking from the poorest in society and redistributing to billionaires. And I'm sorry, royalists, if you cannot see that is wrong in 2025, there's something wrong with you. Comments are open on my TikTok channel as ever. Let me know what you think. More.
All right. Thank you, Martin. Again, Martin has a TikTok channel. It is called Ministry of Hacks. Ministry of Hacks. So he does sometimes, a couple times a day, he uploads a video. But it really takes the lady from the island to break it down, because she is from the islands, right? It takes her to break it down. Where's the lady from the islands? Ah, come on, lady from the islands. Oh, man, I just saw that, and then I lost it just that fast. Ah, there she is.
And I love Prince Harry, and Prince Harry should be king. He should be king. Prince Harry, not William. William and all of them in there, Camilla is the wicked witch of the devil himself, because she is part of why Princess Diana is not here. I do not like them. I am from the islands, and we don't need them in the Caribbean. Get lost. Demolish the monarchy. This is 2023, okay? And I will support Harry 100%. I do feel for him. Yes, I do. And everything in the book is the truth. And Charles is the monster, not Harry. Harry is no monster, not Meghan. He's bringing the story out right now. They are evil people. They are not nice. Behind the wall, we all are one human being, and behind that wall there are no difference with me and you and any other Brits.
Yeah,
give the people back the money. They are just welfare recipients living off the taxpayers of the British people, and the British people are stupid supporting that nonsense monarchy. It is nothing. It's just a title. It means nothing. A title. I'm angry at them.
Yes, give the people back their money. And the British people, they are so stupid putting up with that nonsense. Gosh, when she said that, my shoulders went up. I'm like, okay, you know I'm not responsible for this, right? Right? You do know I'm not responsible for this. I kind of felt like it was something I said or done, but well, she spoke those words of wisdom. When I find myself in times of trouble, the island lady comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be, 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 let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be. Yes, you need that island lady to speak those words of wisdom. Okay. She's from the islands. Now, my honest review of Meghan Markle's one-pot pasta as a professional chef. I developed recipes for a living, so of course I had to try the Duchess of Sussex's single skillet spaghetti recipe. In her new Netflix series With Love, Meghan, Meghan Markle welcomes friends into a beautiful California home where she cooks for them while sharing her favorite recipes and hosting tips. While the internet has plenty to say, both good and bad, about the cooking and lifestyle show, in general, one recipe in particular is stirring up serious debate: Meghan's one pot pasta. This is incredible. What is today's date? It is the 23rd of March. The series was released on March the 4th. And yet, there are still several articles a day. Who knows the exact number, but there are several articles a day discussing that one pot pasta. Such is the influence of the Duchess of Sussex. Truth is, I don't care what the review was. Good housekeeping, God bless. Next, this gives you an idea of what things look like as they were going along. Very familiar sight where you have grilled those, garlic. You grilled some cherry tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, and of course, everything else. And then you take that spaghetti. Never break it. You are not supposed to break your spaghetti. That is anti-Italian. You just don't break that spaghetti. And of course, you take some, 3.5 quarts of water from the kettle. Although some people are substituting broth for the water, which is fine. It's just as easy to warm broth in a little saucepan as it is to, use a kettle of water. So whatever works. But I think when I make it, I'm going to make it just like Meghan. And then if that, if I get the urge to add some protein like chicken or shrimp or something like that, then I'll do that. Oh, I wonder how that would taste with some langostinos. Those little crustaceans. But that's good. Okay. Let me see. Connie Bomber, thank you so much for the super sticker. Wait, I got one more. Okay, thank you very much for the super sticker and for being a member of Royal Sussex. All right. Oh, what's that? I tried it and loved it. I made more than I thought, so I have gifted some and froze the rest. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, what's that? Oh, okay. Okay. And I hope it was delicious. Wow, okay. Well, maybe I shouldn't wait until I get my pan. Maybe I should just because I got some nice pans that I can use. I just wanted to identify with the Duchess of Sussex as much as possible, but that's okay. When I do get the pan, I could just do it again. Okay, moving on. Oh, wait, I need that, don't I? Okay, that's another sound bite.
About Meghan. Okay, friends, let's talk about Meghan Markle and her new show on Netflix. First off, I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty disappointed with the influencers on this platform who have pretty much just criticized her show. And the only thing I could think is that you probably have never tried to make special moments for the people in your life. And I watched the first episode, stuck in an airport, flight delayed, earbuds, Netflix, and thought, I'm going to watch this. I've always been a homemaker. I love making my home beautiful. I love creating special moments for my children and for the people who come to visit. So imagine my surprise when people have criticized the fact that she's taking pretzels from one bag and putting pretzels in another bag. And you made it sound like she was doing something really dumb. Oh my gosh. I will take things out of their original packaging and put them in another package to look sweeter and nicer when putting together something special for a friend's gift basket. That's all she was doing. And it was darling. And it was a great idea with a simple snack and putting snacks on a tray for her guest in her guest room. Now, I loved it. I loved her candle making. I got, she has a guest coming. They made candles together. I made candles like 20 years ago, which was a flop. I watched her little segment on that and I'm like, I feel like I can make candles now. And it was so sweet with her little labels and then I got to the second episode and I'm like, come on, people, are you really criticizing Meghan Markle because what the tabloids have shared about her character and, yes, she married a prince and maybe we're all a little jealous. I'm not jealous because I myself married a prince. He may not be in the tabloids, but let me tell you, he is my Prince Charming. And here she is. I spilled on my shirt today. It happens. Now there's a moment. I'll just open it up a little bit there. But anyway, so for those of you who have criticized Meghan Markle or Meghan of Sussex, are you a homemaker at all? Are you at all interested in making special moments for those who are in your home? Because that's what she's doing. And it is not an overproduced show like a Martha Stewart's and, the Rachel Rays out there. But I'm telling you, I had so much fun watching it. I went in with very little expectation based on what the influencers are saying here. So I say go back and watch it. Duplicate some of what she has done when you have guests, and it'll change your whole opinion because she has really good ideas. Loved her ideas. And actually, I watched all of Suits. I liked her in Suits. She married a prince. Who's going to hate on that? Really? But there's been a lot of haters here. So I am debunking all of that because I am a very big critic when it comes to homemaking and making memories because that's what I love to do. And I say, Meghan, home run. You did a great job and I will continue watching every episode. Okay, friends, let's talk about Meghan Markle and her new show on Netflix. First off, I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty disappointed.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to stop it, but my touch screen is, when my hands are dry, it just does not pick up my touch. Okay. So there you have it. This parade of people that have come forth to speak up and speak out for our Duchess. This lady is speaking out for various reasons, including the fact that she is a homemaker and she loves to create moments. And how dare they try to make light of something like that or become so critical and just invent these standards that should not exist, but suddenly it is a thing because they say so. And the whole thing about perfection, I just don't get. Well, I mean, I understand it, but it's just like, it is so obvious that the person has not watched it. If you have not watched the With Love Meghan, if you think that her whole purpose is to be as perfect as possible and to be this person that is almost robotic and calculating. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, how many pot stickers do you throw on the countertop before you realize that it is not about that? They could have easily have edited that part out. And they did not. She nearly burned the cream, and they didn't edit it out. So, what else do you have to do? Her makeup artist, he slices into his hand. I mean, they literally started off the season with real human moments. And this lady, God bless her, you can see her pointing at the top she's wearing. And while she's talking, she's like, "Oh, I spilled something on my top. Oh, well, I'll just do this." I have to tell you, being an older person, right, amongst a group of younger people, in my work, I was in the company of some younger people, and we had a box lunch, right? This was years ago. We had a box lunch. And so I heard someone say, I mean, mind you, this day was full of so many sights and sound and beauty and culture. There was so much going on. And this one young lady just kind of killed the moment for me, because I'm thinking, wow, this is so easy breezy and everybody's enjoying themselves. Nobody is taking themselves so serious and, that kind of thing, right? Oh, does anybody have a Clorox pen? Do you know that there are some people that actually keep a Clorox pen? I mean, not just some people. I think quite a few people actually take those out and about with them just in case something dribbles on their shirt or top or whatever. I mean, this is like an amazing day, and you're not even in the moment enough to say, who cares? Now, not to disparage anyone who carries a Clorox pen, and I'm sure it is a fine product, so I have nothing against that. But I'm just like, lady, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Don't worry about what somebody think of that dribble on your shirt. I mean, it's still going to look like something spilled. But anyway, nothing against people who strive for perfection, but I don't necessarily feel as comfortable around people that cannot just let go and enjoy themselves. Because I think your insecurity becomes my insecurity. If you're ill at ease, then I'm feeling ill at ease. Yeah, I'm very much like that. So anyway, I like this lady. Oh, what? I'm at Costco. I was checking out these skillets. I kid you not. A man came up next to me, saw them, and then hollered over to his wife, "Honey, come over here. Look, you can make Megan's pasta in this. You can make Megan's pasta in this." Even at Costco? And look at the price. Look at the price. $44.99. Now, I believe that this was in California. I'm going to assume they have them at all Costco stores. Now, it's a fry pan, I guess, right? With a lid. But I'm sure it works. Still, I would want the other one, but how about that? How about that? Yes, he's ready to get his pasta on. Yeah, he wants his pasta, damn it. Well. How about that? You know, I want to say I'm not surprised. I really want to say that I'm not surprised. And I want to say that I knew it was going to be like this all along, but I had no idea. I had no idea. And in particular, I would not have been able to identify certain things that would become very viral. I could not have predicted that. Um, the pasta seems to have captured people's imagination. Um, of course, the cake, the candles, the chicken wings. I mean, just so many things have captured people's imagination. And the fact that, what was it, Waitrose? Where they were saying that they had all of these searches for items from the With Love Meghan, including edible flowers. So, and then Le Creuset. Don't even get me started with the roasting pan or what do they call it? The brazier. Don't even get me started with that. I had no idea. Okay, for interviews, not a picnic, not a box lunch. Yeah, not a box lunch. I mean, to be fair to that lady, she was amongst her colleagues and everything. And she didn't have one. She called around asking, does anybody have a Clorox pen? And someone did produce one. Yeah. Well, you know, to each their own, whatever makes you feel secure. But for interviews, I say, oh, heck yeah. Always be prepared. Now, here's another chef. Oh, you know what? I was going to share that video with you. Let me see if I can grab that. Shouldn't take but a minute. Oh, maybe that won't work out. I was hoping it was just something I could just quickly grab, but that's not going to work. Let me see. Let me try that again. Oh, it's got that music. Oh my God, I cannot have that music because I might get in trouble. But tell you what, how long is it? Oh, it's 55 seconds. Okay, give that a minute. I'm going to have to load it the old fashioned way, like, 55 seconds. All right. But anyway, so it says here at the top. Oh, where is that one? Oh my God. I moved the screen and I still got more screens open behind the other screen. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me try that. I still had like another 5 screens open. Okay, so it says here, not only do we have Martha Stewart making a version of Meghan's one pot pasta, but now we have an Italian chef making her dish. Haters say what you want, but you have to admit it's another check or win in the Sussex column. I'm sorry, Sussex success column for Meghan. Yes, it is another win. Absolutely. So let me see. Italian chef tries Meghan Markle's viral one-pot pasta. You know, at least they're giving Meghan all the credit for it too. Now, I'm sure that someone else has cooked this before, obviously. I'm sure it's not, you know, but what matters is who made it famous. Who It's like who made that a household word? In this case, who made one pot pasta a thing? Well, we all know it was the Duchess of Sussex. Okay, so I'm going to load that video so I can share it with you. Wow, he looks pleased with himself. He really does. He looks so pleased with himself. It must be delicious. Okay, you guys, I'm going to have to try this week. I cannot hold out until I get my brazier. I want to go to the outlet store. Yeah, whenever I can go to the outlet store, that's where I want to get it from. Oh, okay. Is that it? All right, let me check. All right. So give me just a second. I'm going to share that with you. With the sound down, of course, because I don't want to get in trouble. Yeah, because they ain't playing. They are not playing with this copyright. Although I do think they kind of relax things a bit. I don't think they're as oppressive as they were. Yeah, I think things have relaxed a bit. Oh, okay, so that's it. Sound down. There you go. It almost seems like he put the water in too soon, right? Shouldn't that have this? Well, he's not using a lot of greens. Oh, didn't he add it more? Oh, now the greens are going in. Well, look, he's a chef. I know he know what he's doing. So let me just shut up. Now look at his face. Look at his face. That's how you put the cheese in. Oh, I got to get some cheese too. And look at how he played it. Look at how he played it. It's almost like a lobster tail. No, I want to hear what he said. Music or no music.
Honestly, Meghan, life could be worse. Honestly, Meghan, life could be worse.
What did he say? Honestly, Meghan, something, something.
Honestly, Meghan, life could be worse.
Was that French or something? Was that Italian? Oh, well. But, I mean, he seems to be enjoying himself. And I tell you what, when you make something like this, it just look like you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those dishes where you look like a chef. You look like you know your way around the kitchen. It's hard not to impress someone if they're watching you cook this. Oh, make it rain, make it rain. Come on, man, you better plate that pasta or that spaghetti. Look at him. Look at him. Come on now. Now, when you're doing that, you know what you're doing. Wow. Oh, and did he do some more zest? Was that an orange? A lemon and an orange. Okay. Okay. And you know what? I keep lemons and limes year round. I keep them. And I cannot think of any meat, any protein that I've had that I did not enjoy a squeeze of lemon or lime. Yes, and he's wearing white. Okay. Well, there you go. Chef kiss. Mwah. All right. Meghan done started something, y'all. And look at there. Legendary chef Emerald Lagasse. Emerald. Am I saying his name right? Emerald Lagasse is now entering the chat and made his version of Meghan's one pot pasta. Now, I'm telling you guys, this has taken on a life of its own. Chef Sandy Love. Hey, Chef Sandy Love. I take it you've made the pasta. Is that what, or spaghetti? I keep saying pasta. Is that what I see on your profile pic? Yeah, you got to love this. And then look at how many people are doing the cakes. Look at how many people are doing the lemon raspberry something cake. Raspberry honey. Lemon raspberry honey. Or is it honey lemon raspberry? Well, anyway, there's so many versions of that floating across the interweb. I'm going to say that bottom photo looks more authentic than most that I've seen. The one on the right ain't too bad either. It almost seems like some people cannot resist the icing going down the side of the cake. It's like they just cannot help themselves. And then they start to smooth it out, but then they stop, which is okay. I mean, it's not a crime, but I would definitely want it to look neater. Oh, well, but that's what the cake looks like. And look at there. Even that's not perfect. It's not perfect. And it's not supposed to be. Honey lemon layer cake with raspberries. It's not supposed to be perfect, but it looks beautiful. And of course, our Duchess looks beautiful. Oh, what is this? Prince William is shaping global policy. We should be glad he is in the era of Trump. Oh my God. It's Russell Myers. It's Russell Myers. You can only ever see one ear at a time, Russell Myers. Russell Myers. It is only March. Can you do any more boot licking, butt kissing, brown nosing? Can you do any more than what you're doing now? Is that possible? Is that possible? Now, you know, y'all need to quit. As though William has some impact on those people at the White House. That man will turn against anybody. He would turn against his mother. And of course, both of those heretics with these affiliations that they have not earned. Colonel-in-chief of this, colonel-in-chief of that. Yes, they're honorary roles, but, you know, there's a fine tradition here in the United States that the executive branch are considered civilians. The President of the United States is a civilian, not a member of the military, a civilian. It's not even possible under the Constitution for a military person, someone in uniform, to be president at the same time. It's not consistent. And in our government, the civilian leadership in the White House has authority over the military. Like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff leads the military, representing all the branches of armed service. But yet, that person yields to the authority of the defense secretary, who is answering to nobody else but the commander-in-chief, the president. So why are these two left-behind royals dressed up for war? Why are they dressed up? And even worse, what is Kate doing there with those Lululemon pants she showed up with last time, which I thought was totally respectful. She wore some Lululemon yoga pants because William didn't take her to Singapore. And she was hoping to have, I guess, a Marilyn Monroe moment or something, like a viral image. And that dog just wasn't going to hunt. That dog was not going to hunt. It did not work. Nobody paid attention and nobody cared. Poor Kate, so desperate for her husband's attention. That was foolish. Silly wabbit. Twix are for kids. Silly wabbit. Well, she tried it. I'll give her that much. She tried. Let me see. Do I have that video? Where she's wearing those Lululemon pants? Yeah, Lululemon Kate wearing some yoga pants to military stuff. How disrespectful. Look at those pants. The same attention seeking. The same attention seeking. Pitiful. That's just like that stunt of stepping out of that state Bentley, wearing that mini with the big cape over it, showing all her legs for everybody to see. The same exact thing, attention seeking. And what bothers me is that the Royal Rota were derelict in their duty because they said nothing about it. They gave her praise for showing her legs, her fit toned legs. During a state visit, she wanted that moment to be about her, not the president of South Korea, not Charles and Godzilla hosting a head of state. She wanted that to be about her, knowing what was going to trend in the papers. And then, if I'm correct, she wasn't even supposed to be there. That was a last minute change. Oh, okay, well, she's not going to the state dinner, but she's coming to greet the president of South Korea. I bet she didn't want to do it. And when they forced it, she decided, oh, I know what I'll do. And that's what this minute is, this moment. William is in Singapore. He did not take his lawfully wedded wife. And I don't think she was happy about that. And so to get attention, she shows up as the colonel in chief or whatever, wearing Lululemon yoga pants. This is a disgrace. I want to show something to you. Give me just a second. Okay, give me one more second. I want to share another thing with you. Okay, let me show you how ridiculous she is, and let me demonstrate to you what she gets away with. And it's none of my business, but it is, because you know how our Duchess was treated. So it's none of my business, but I'm going to make it my business. I'm going to make it my business just to point out the hypocrisy. Okay. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. Do you see her walking around in Lululemon with her hair down? Do you see her with her hair down? She has a regulation hairdo. That is how they expect the women it is Sweden, right? In their military. That is how they expect women to conduct themselves. That is showing the proper respect for one's position. I tell you, for all of the nonsense that they speak about Meghan time and time again, the Crown Princess of Spain, regulation hairdo. By the way, she's someone pointed out yesterday, she gave her address, what was it, Parliament for the first time at age 17. She gave a speech. I actually watched that speech, by the way, and her parents were so proud of her. The future Queen of Spain, the future Queen of Sweden, both crown princess. And I submit to you the future Queen of the United Kingdom. Very, very disrespectful. And we all know with a great deal of certainty that if that was Meghan, they would tear her to shreds. It would be a constitutional crisis. Oh, did you notice that? Did you notice that? Yep, that horse was ready to sling that heifer around. Yeah, disrespectful, absolutely disrespectful. And by the way, she may be about the same age as, who. Basically, this is a kid. This is a college age young woman who shows more poise and elegance and dignity in her pinky than that other one has, with over 20 years of hanging around the British royal family. Now, you see right there, she's doing what she's supposed to do. But William's out of town. I'm not getting the attention. I think I'm on Lululemon. Okay. Didn't know that's how you're supposed to do it, but there you have it. Now, let me get back to William. Prince William, Paris meeting with Trump suggests his apprenticeship as Prince of Wales is over. You guys, well, okay, no, I shouldn't say that. He's only worked since Meghan showed up. And even that little bit of work doesn't add up to what other senior members of the royal family are doing. He's never been a full-time, right? Never, ever. And since 2020, since March of 2020, everything that William does is a reaction to Harry. He's only reacting to his brother. He and Skull and Bones, he and Bed Knobs and Broomsticks have already taken 2 vacations abroad, and it's only March. They've already taken 2 vacations abroad, and it's only March. You know what? I'm going to have to get on TikTok. I'm going to have to start doing TikTok because I want to drag these people. I want to drag them and get it out of my system because I got so much to say, so much hypocrisy to point out. So I'm going to put my teeth in. Yes, I'm going to pop those partials in my mouth, and I'm going to go on TikTok and drag the crap out of these people. Lululemons and all. And that's a promise. Global statesman. Prince William is set to assume the role of global statesman, which will see him travel the world to represent Britain abroad. So far, the only thing that he's done that did not have to do with Earthshot, he went to, oh, wait a minute. Okay, he went to Poland, where we found out that he has such an affinity for pulled pork sandwiches, right? You follow me? Okay, so he went to Poland to thank the troops that are in Poland, the British troops stationed in Poland, and also to expose himself as a major consumer of pulled pork sandwiches, which he enjoys above all others. He's here for the pulled pork sandwich. The other thing is going to Estonia. For what? To thank the troops there. But this so-called global statesman has only traveled for Earthshot. So who is he global statesmaning to? Who is his target audience as a global statesman? Because traveling for Earthshot and a state visit is a whole nother thing. Essentially, he has not left Europe as the so-called global statesman. He has traveled to South Africa for Earthshot. He's traveled to New York for Earthshot. He traveled to Singapore. When was the last time William's been to Canada? Right? The one time they trusted him to do something was the Caribbean, and we all know how that worked out. He takes an all-expense paid vacation to the Caribbean and come back with a debt for his grandmother. Now that's elder abuse. He comes back and he puts his grandmother in debt.
Yes, Prince. Trenchtown wants $245 billion. That's what Trenchtown wants. $345 billion. Yes, thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what Trenchtown wants. Yes. What do you mean?
This man comes back in debt. Nothing to do but give it to his grandma. That state visit, Caribbean tour, greatest hits, walking in his brother's footsteps, which is the same thing he did when he went to New York. He walked in his brother's footsteps. That was a failure. But the best days of my life was uh, Willie and Kitty in Jamaica. It just doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't. It was mortifying for them. Some global statesmen, you done lost half of the Caribbean. Prince William wants to be a global statesman. Well, that's Max Foster, a royalist, monarchist, butt kisser. They called all the usual people so that they would run with that story. The thing is, if you're really a global statesman, it is the world, it is your peers, they're the ones that should say that, not a bunch of Royal Rhoda people or some of the newspapers that you're in bed with. They're not supposed to be the ones that declare that. Like a foreign newspaper should say global statesman, not your pals over at the Daily Mail. And leave it to Graham Smith, the troll. And I love him for it. He's always trolling the royal family. Such what is this sycophantic nonsense. He's not a statesman. He doesn't have global appeal or influence. He's a dilettante. And let's see over here, Royal Rhoda front pages for the last 3 days, glimpse of Kate and also Charles and Camilla, but no mention of global statesman, Mr. I'm bringing sexy back William and his summit in New York. Not even a cheeky pic of him in his waders. Remember, he had those rubber boots on or whatever, the rubber pants, going to the Oyster Bay, or actually to Hudson Bay, and digging for oysters. And what was so crazy about that is that people are complaining about sewage, raw sewage, running into the streams and canals or whatever in the UK. He didn't address that. He comes all the way over to the United States and started learning about pollution in the Hudson River instead of acknowledging the real problems going on back home in the UK. That was stupid. That was so stupid. Who advises this guy? Prince William will look to cement himself as global statesman in his visit with U.S. aides to U.S. aides, say, as they insist he won't be distracted by surveys showing he's the most popular public figure in America ahead of Zelensky and the King and Joe Biden. I don't know how they came up with those figures, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. What's that? Unbeatable soft power and royal is becoming global. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Dad, look, I'm a global statesman. Already? He has not negotiated anything. He has not solved anything. He hasn't done anything. He doesn't have any ties to the military. He just goes and shows up. He was barely in the military when he was in the military. Do you think he shows up now that he's the Prince of Wales? Certainly not. And these comments came from an old article. Global Statesman. He didn't make much of an impact on his recent tour of the Caribbean, did he? The other one says, Global Statesman, who writes this nonsense? Separate homes, separate lives, worlds apart. They put on their performance, their little cheeky performance for the cameras. And then I'm going to allege that in all likelihood, they go their separate ways. There's been a lot of ahas that the Sussex squad has found that pretty much says that. Like Charlotte weeping in tears because suddenly there's her father with a full beard. Now, if he was actually seeing his daughter on a regular basis, she would have watched that beard grow. But it wasn't meant. And so when she finally saw her father, she was upset. Little Princess Charlotte. It runs in the family, don't it? Can't nobody hurt you like your family. Zendaya half-sister speaks out about family rift. Do you guys know that Zendaya's sister is 23 years older than Zendaya? That girl got 23 years on her. If only they knew. If only they knew. You try to be present for your family, only for your family to betray you at some point. I wonder whose idea it was. Or did Meghan just voluntarily say, you know what? We don't get on so much, but you are my sister, and I want to support you. And that has been used against her for years. Now, I don't know what Zendaya's circumstances is, but 23 years is 23 years. Kind of weird. And of course, once she found out that Meghan was dating Prince Harry, she went and changed her name back to Markle. Yep, she went and changed her name back to Markle. You know, if somebody like that was in my care, I would put on a lot of, what do you call that, clown makeup. I'd put on a ratty wig, and I would just stand at the bottom of the steps. I've written a postcard to Daddy. His I would turn into Baby Jane Hudson. Not for anybody else, just for her. I would turn into Baby Jane Hudson. If you know, you know. Yes, I would turn into Baby Jane Hudson. Again, if you know, you know. That's what I would do. Ah, is Legs here? Hey, Legs. Thanks for joining us. She changed her name back to Marco when she heard her sister was dating a prince. How about that? How about that? Somebody heard opportunity knocking. Okay. Well, let me see here. Vogue William, surrounded by the ancestors. Vogue Williams and Spencer Matthews in stressful situation as concerns over marriage grows. Really? Is this the one who was just dragging Meghan about the with love Meghan? That Vogue Spencer? Yeah, that one. Vogue Spencer is, I think, the sister of the man that Pippa is married to. Now that's Vogue's husband there. And it's so interesting because just yesterday we realized that it was somebody else with the ancestors, the person on the right side, who I do not wish to name. They also seemingly had a visit from the ancestors. Now, of course, I ain't wishing nothing bad on anybody, but let's just take a look here. Meghan Markle's former ally claims she lied about not knowing Prince Harry, manicured and very forced. That's what she said about Meghan's lifestyle show, that it seems manicured and forced. And then yesterday, that's what we learned that yesterday. The squatty that posted that yesterday, I chose not to identify. They said, "Happy weekend, everyone. Enjoy yourself and stay kind." Enjoy yourself and stay kind. The ancestors are busy. The ancestors are busy. Now, I'm going to finish up with this. Does anybody recognize that clock? Does anybody recognize that clock? I'll wait. Does anybody recognize that clock? I got a feeling that somebody's going to have that very fast. Recognize that clock. Yes. Okay. I'm going to say these probably were written at the same time. Jawa Productions says, yes, Marshall Fields in Chicago. And Tangerine Squeeze, Marshall Fields in Chicago. Very good. Yes. And this famous image is a Norman Rockwell from 19, I think it was 1945. 1945. He, made these illustrations for the Saturday Evening Post, which was a magazine. And that is actually a self-portrait, I believe, of Norman Rockwell, pretending to be the person setting up the clocks at Marshall Fields. But yeah, November the 3rd, 1945. And that's easy to remember because, well, I'm kind of partial to November 3rd. So I thought that was very interesting. And so this is what the clock looks like. Up close, a photograph. The clock has 4 sides. And one of the funny things about Marshall Fields, which at the time was a huge department store, right? Now, a lot of the floors are not even used as retail. The building is a very bland, and I do mean bland, Macy's store. Is no longer Marshall Fields. That was a very emotional blow to the people of Chicago. So much so that the owners of of Macy's, they actually flew out one of the presidents, vice presidents, or whatever, and had lunch with the mayor of Chicago to explain, you know what? We're going to have to change the name of the store because it's just easier and smoother because, Macy's took a lot of local legacy department stores under their umbrella of retail. And this one, the Marshall Fields, that name has been around in Chicago for over 100 years. Over 100 years. And there are some people that just will not call it Macy's. Just like there's some people who will not say Willis Tower. It is Sears Tower, and it's always going to be Sears Tower. So, but retail, I'll tell you a little fact about Chicago that you may not know. And that is that the mail order catalog started in Chicago. Now, Sears eventually became the world's largest retailer. Montgomery Ward was actually the one who originated the mail order catalog. Montgomery Ward was a watch repair person, right? Or watch repairman. And he got this notion to put a bunch of dry goods on a list. And so that way, people who lived in the rural areas, which was most of America, they could receive the same kind of products as anybody in the big city. Now, it was a very limited list. It was just a list. It wasn't even really a catalog. But eventually, more and more items were added. Ready-made clothing, the latest appliances, you name it. It was in the Montgomery Ward catalog. And, well, Sears and Roebuck's, Sears decided, you know what? We're going to have a catalog too. And so it was some very interesting things that you could buy out of the Sears catalog, including a house. So in the days before Amazon, in the days before, retail spaces like that online, people would depend on the catalogs. So Sears, Montgomery Ward, Walgreens, all of these retailers, these big famous retailers that most people have heard of, actually started in Chicago. Chicago was like, how do I put this? Remember how they used to say made in Hong Kong? Chicago was like the Hong Kong of North America. So many things were created here and made here and then shipped all over the world. I even had an old Schwinn bicycle, and the little plate on the front said Schwinn Bicycles, Chicago, Illinois. They used to, put the city of origin, not just made in America, but they even put the city on it. So outside of New York, the biggest opportunity was Chicago. And then, of course, San Francisco. But the last bastion of civilization for a lot of people traveling from the East was Chicago. If you took the train from the East, you got that long trip to the West Coast, right? And so you would stop in Chicago, shop at Marshall Fields, stay at the Palmer House Hotel. And all of these merchant princes, they all knew each other. They all belonged to those men's clubs and things like that. And so retail to those people was like oil to Texas. People got rich. And because, Chicago was like in the middle of the country, more or less, at the time, you would bring in the raw materials, whether it was by the train or by the lake or by the rivers. They would go into the factory, come out as products, and then they would get shipped all over the world through these mail order catalogs. And of course, to other cities for retail. So, back in the day, Chicago was a powerhouse. At one time, it was the fastest growing city in the world. After the Great Chicago Fire, the fastest growing city in the world. Not anymore, of course. But okay, that is that. And I am done. So thank you all very much. And Frango Mints. Madison, you're gonna just grit your teeth when I tell you what happened to me one day. Now, in the old Marshall Fields department store on the 7th floor, they had a bunch of restaurants on the 7th floor. I walked into this one place because I saw pastries. I got a sweet tooth. They had a Frango Mint buttercream chocolate layer cake. Do you know I could still taste that cake? A Frango Mint buttercream chocolate layer cake. That was probably one of the best cake experiences I ever had, bar none. And I think I only managed to ever get one slice. Oh, if I could turn back time. If I could turn back time, I would go to the 7th floor of Marshall Fields and grab me another piece of that cake. I didn't know anything as good as that exists. And you guys, they used to make the chocolates in the department store. I think it was up on the 10th floor. Up on the 10th floor, you had all these ladies that was just like Lucy and Ethel. They would make the chocolate according to recipe at the department store. But eventually, as modernity happens, they moved the operation to a commercial kitchen someplace else. But they used to roll those chocolates right there at the store, box them, and sell them. It was an in-house operation. Oh, the good old days of retail. The good old days, the department store. You could spend the whole day there. And I tell you something else, you guys from the UK. Surely you've heard of a store called Selfridges. Anybody? Selfridges? Gordon Selfridge. Gordon Selfridge. He was from Wisconsin. His father died when he was young. So he and his mother and his brother, they moved to Chicago looking for opportunity. And Selfridge went to work at a dry goods store. And the dry goods store, I believe it was Marshall Fields. He used to work for Marshall Fields. He went from, I think he was like working as a stock boy or something like that. And he elevated himself to the general manager of the store. And a lot of the things that made Marshall Fields famous was because of Selfridge. And so Selfridge, he realized that he had the Midas touch. He made a lot of money too. So Marshall Fields and Company, Marshall Fields was actually in business with Potter Palmer of the Palmer House. He bought out Potter Palmer and he just named the store after himself, Marshall Fields and Company. So Selfridge felt like, wow, I'm doing all this work and you're making all the money. You're getting all the credit for it. So Selfridge opened up his first department store, not in London, not on Oxford Street in London, but right there on State Street in Chicago. There was a department store called Schlesinger and Mayer's, right? And if you're familiar with State Street, then you know the old Carson Peary Scott store. Originally, when it opened back in 1899, it was called Schlesinger and Mayer's. And I tell you, if you go online right now, if you Google the Sullivan Center, or if you Google Schlesinger and Mayer's, or if you Google Carson Peary Scott's, make sure you say on State Street, you will see one of the most beautiful retail spaces you've ever seen in your life. Beautiful building, covered in white terracotta. It has this amazing, like almost Art Nouveau iron framing the first floor of the building, the windows. Each window was like a picture frame. Beautiful building, 1899. So they spent so much money to open up that department store. They wanted the most beautiful retail space on the street. They spent so much money that they went broke. They went bankrupt. Schlesinger and Mayer went out of business. Enters Gordon G. Selfridge. Gordon G. Selfridge purchases Schlesinger and Mayer, and then he puts his name on it, Selfridges. And Selfridges was open for, a short time, but there was so much competition in Chicago, he thought it wiser to take his act overseas. He went on a visit to Europe with his wife. And by the way, his wife, her name was Buckingham. like Buckingham Palace. Yeah, her name was Buckingham. But she was a Chicago Buckingham. And they were also very wealthy. The Buckingham Fountain is named for Gordon Selfridge's brother-in-law, Clarence Buckingham Fountain. He died in World War I think. And his widow built that fountain. So he went to London and he thought, oh my God, these people don't know how to run a shop. They don't know anything about retail. So Gordon G. Selfridge purchased some land on Oxford Street. He was the ultimate showman. He promoted the store before it was even built and got people all excited about it. And see, the big difference is back in those days, you would go to a haberdashery or boutique or whatever, and there wasn't much merchandise to look at. The concept of having all this product piled up where you can touch it and feel it and try it on, that is a purely American concept where you sell fine products to the public like you would sell it at some bazaar or you would sell it at some car boot sale. You have everything like right there to the touch. That was very different. And even in the US, there was a lot of stores where you just could not really touch the products. And that was the big difference, is that they would use these big showcases and stuff so you could really see the products. And so Gordon Selfridge was a genius when it came to retail. And he took that American know-how to London and opened up Selfridge's department store. And it was a very popular store. And during the suffragette movement, when so many other, men-owned institutions were getting their windows smashed and torched and such, the suffragettes didn't bother Gordon Selfridge because he spoke their language. He knew how to please his women customers. He actually acknowledged the suffragette movement when others was ignoring it or criticizing it. He actually would fly the colors of the suffragette movement. That's what made him so brilliant, is that he had that kind of, that very common touch. So if you've ever shopped at Selfridge's in London, that store was a result of his time in Chicago. As a matter of fact, I believe the architects for the store, I believe it was an American architect or architectural firm, Burnham and Root. He wanted to make sure that everything was as American as possible because he needed the store to function in a certain way. So he needed it purpose built as an American retail space. And it's been a huge success ever since. It's not exactly Harrods, but it was a very successful place. So, yeah. And also, if you would like to learn more about Gordon Selfridge, you can, there's a mini series that was on PBS. I think it was made for British television, actually, but it is called Selfridges. And you can learn about his history as, this boy who had to work to support his family. And when he went to the UK, I think they rented a mansion in London, and they also had a country estate. And let's see, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, and his son became a proper English gentleman. So it's very interesting. I mean, it's just like it wasn't like the usual dollar bride where you have the woman from a wealthy American family, you know, buy into the aristocracy. You have this American retailer take his family and began to, you know, live that life as a merchant, a very wealthy merchant. Now, eventually, he met these women. I think they were called the Dolly twins or whatever. And he got involved in some very shady stuff. I believe his wife, what's her name? Bertha? No, I don't think it was Bertha. I forgot what his wife's name was. But she died from the Spanish flu, the influenza. During the First World War, she died. So once she was gone, he kind of got involved with gambling and stuff like that. It was a real disaster. And he ended up losing everything. He was so down in the dumps. I mean, this guy lost everything. And he actually was arrested for vagrancy because in his later years, and I think he lived to a ripe old age, he would actually go and stand in front of the Selfridges department store and just look through the windows. And he was so ratty and dirty looking. He had these frayed hem line on his pants and threadbare, very fine clothing. But the clothing, well, he's had this, this is the stuff that he wore when he first got to London. This is stuff he was wearing when he was rich. But he and his daughter had to move into an apartment somewhere. They had to leave the mansion and move into an apartment because he was poor. He barely had any money. The board at the department store, they kicked him out because he was borrowing money and such from the company to take care of his gambling habits and those twins that he befriended. So, but yeah, that very interesting. The merchant princes. It's like in the U.S. we don't have an aristocracy, but we have those, or we, especially back in the day, we had a lot of those men only, clubs where you could smoke your cigars and such. If you know where to look, there's a few of them that are still around, and some of them that have been converted into hotels. But that is where the merchant princes would go, and women couldn't go there. The women had their own places, and all of these names from history, they all knew each other. They all, plotted and schemed to enrich the city and avoid taxes and all that kind of stuff. So why is Chicago called the Windy City? Well, years ago, there was a columnist from New York, and this columnist had pretty much had enough of Chicago's this, Chicago's that, Chicago's this, Chicago's that. He said that people, especially politicians in Chicago, tend to boast a lot. And he said, with all of that boasting, it's going to get very windy with all that hot air. So the name Windy City actually is derived from politicians and their boasting. It had nothing to do with the weather. However, it is, you know, right next to a huge body of water, Lake Michigan, which is like an inland sea, really. I mean, it's a huge, lake. And the deepest point is about 1,000 feet. And so it affects the weather. And then in the Midwest, from Tornado Alley, and then, of course, Southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. We're not exactly in Tornado Alley, but we do live in an area that is very prone to tornadoes. When I was a kid in grade school, we used to have to do tornado drills. They test the emergency thing once a week. No, once a month. I think it's every first Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. Or is it the last? Anyway, because we're very prone to tornadoes. Now, we don't usually have them hit the city, but gosh, there was a whole town downstate that was destroyed a few years ago. So, yeah, twisters, as they call it, we get a lot of those. So, there are days when it's so windy, you can barely walk, especially when you're like walking past the skyscrapers. You could turn the corner and get blown off your feet. There's a viral video of a woman who was trying to get in the taxi, and I think 3 or 4 people had to help this elderly lady get to the taxi because she couldn't walk against the wind. So those skyscrapers, they kind of create a tunnel effect, like a wind tunnel. So what's already pretty bad in the first place gets so much worse because it's focusing that air on one place. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Fenwick's, huh? Never heard of it. Oh yeah, the Chicago Defender. There was a time when the Chicago Defender would send messages to the South, and they actually were very instrumental in the Great Migration during the Jim Crow era. They would you'd have to smuggle the Defender to the South. And the way that they got the Defender to a lot of small towns and rural areas was the Pullman porters, the Pullman rail porters. They would have to smuggle those newspapers to the South. But those newspapers, not only did they give an accurate account of the things going on in the Black community, but also all of the lynchings and those kind of things. And they would tell Black people, leave the South and come up north. You can get a union job. You can make the same wage as a white man. Just come on up north. And they really did need the labor because there was a lot of work. And there was a lot of work. You can lose your job one place and on your way home, just put in an application at another factory. And if they didn't have you start that day, you come back tomorrow and you work. It's so easy to get a job. And so the Chicago Defender has a vast archive of African American history. Now, if you were a Pullman porter and they discover that you have an issue of the Chicago Defender, as a punishment, they would kick you off the train. They drop you in some small town where you don't know anybody or anything, and preferably a white town, hoping that you'll be dealt with, but they would just drop you in the middle of nowhere. They'd stop in the middle of nowhere and just kick you off the train because you were like an insurgent taking this radical newspaper into these rural communities and making trouble. Now, a few years ago, the family that owned the Chicago Defender, they were afraid of losing all of their archive, right? And so, if I'm correct, I believe that they turned over all of the old photos and such that they had, all of the things that pretty much told the story of Black America at the time. They turned it over to the Chicago Historical Society, like on a permanent loan, so that it could be preserved. Because, you know, of course, it's expensive keeping up with stuff like that. So I believe they voluntarily gave it to the Chicago Historical Society. Yeah, a tornado can happen anywhere. When it's out at sea, they call it a water spout. But a tornado can happen anywhere. When you have a hot front and a cold front that collide into each other, if it's in the Gulf of Mexico, they call it a tornado. But if it's in the open plains of the Midwest, they call it a tornado. Twist the weather. Yep, that hot, cold air collides. Oh, the Green Book? Well, yeah, the Green Book was a way for Black Americans to navigate their way across the country. It would list it's kind of like a Sussex friendly space where you could go to get gas, where you could go to get food, whether or not you could eat the food inside of the establishment. Because back in the old days, when Black people would go back down south, as they would say, you didn't stop. You drive straight through. You ain't want to stop. And then, of course, they still have what they call the sundown towns, where at sundown, they don't want to see nobody Black. They don't want to see you. If you're Black, stay back. So, yeah, that Green Book, that was a list of places that were for Black people that were traveling across the country. What hotels could you stay? It was unfortunate, but necessary. Because there's a lot of people that would travel across country, never to be seen or heard from again. And there's a few places where, like going across, I don't know, for some reason, I always get nervous driving through Ohio. I cannot wait to get out of Ohio. That would make me nervous. The other place, downstate Illinois. Now you would think Illinois is a blue state. Not once you get down past Springfield. Actually, you ain't even got to go that far. Once you leave the metro Chicago area, start getting nervous. Now, I never got nervous about Iowa, but Ohio, downstate Illinois, scary places to me. Yep. When they give you that look, you ain't from around these parts, are you? Oh, man. Yeah, they still have sundown. What was it? In Missouri, they still got sundown towns. What was that town in Missouri where that incident happened? Oh my God, well, I don't know the whole story about that, but I'm telling you, sundown, there were places you couldn't be. There were places you couldn't be. Yep, it's called a sundown town. And at sundown, if you are black, first they're going to warn you. They're going to tell you, what are you doing around here? And they might make trouble. They might not. Best not to stick around. But yeah, a lot of interesting history. I was thinking about doing a video for Leopold and Loeb because I know where all of those locations are. And I may do a video for that. Leopold and Loeb, do like a little walking tour thing and show you where the perpetrators lived, where the victim lived, all of that. That makes for a very interesting story. And it happened in May. Oh gosh, was it 1926? But it was like one of those stories that was so sensational. All over the country, people followed it in newspapers. If there was court TV at the time, it would be like the Menendez brothers. What's funny is that I was, let me see, 2007, right? That was the first time I went to Paris. I was on a tour bus and they had like one of those audio tours where you just plug it in. So there was did they have a tour guide? No, they had the audio tour. And so there was some people, like most people were listening to that. But I had like my own little tour group in the back of the bus because it was like some stuff that I was, it's like other Americans that I ran into. And I'm like telling them little stuff that I know. And they were just like, you should be doing the tour. You should be doing the tour. But yeah, there's most cities have a very interesting history. And if you know where to look, if you know where to access the information, it's always that notion that, and it is true, when you go to London, every time you turn the corner, there's history. Everything is historic in London. It's hard to find something that's not historic. But if you have a major city somewhere, especially during the Industrial Revolution, there's a lot of history. You can find the old mansions where all of these merchant princes lived. And I was just looking at a documentary about the Pullman mansion. And, you see the name Pullman And you know it means rail car, right? Pullman was like the architect of the luxurious rail cars. It was like he created the first class section of the day. And it became very profitable to get that first class ticket for the trains, for the rail service. But rail cars was his specialty. The luxury rail car, well, that was something that he was really expert in doing. And so the name is used today all over the world. There's Pullman, this, Pullman, that. I don't think it's affiliated with the company. I don't even know if the company is still in business, but those luxury rail cars, if you've ever seen like Queen Victoria's uh, train, it's in York, England, and you look through and you see all of the velvet and, you know, all of the fancy light fixtures and that kind of stuff. Well, George Pullman, he gave anybody who could afford it could ride like Queen Victoria. Luxurious, luxurious accommodations. And anyway, so the Pullman Mansion, he built this huge mansion just south of downtown Chicago. And he died around, God, I think it was 1907, 1897, something like that. And his wife stayed there for like another 20 years. And then after that, the daughters he had two daughters. They built their own mansions someplace else. They were not interested in the big house. And the two sons died very young and they had no heirs. So essentially, that was the end of the men in the Pullman family, you know, for the immediate family. Both brothers died young. So the house was demolished. They demolished the entire house, and it was full of all of that Victorian ornate lacquered this and brass that, and you know, antiques from Europe because they could afford it. But all that stuff, and by the way, um, Pullman was such a ruthless businessman that when he died, in his will, he wanted to be buried. He wanted his casket encased in concrete and rail, you know, rail tracks, because he was afraid that they would, you know, dig him up and disgrace his corpse in some kind of way. So he insists that he had to be entombed in, you know, concrete and steel, because he thought they were going to dig him up, because he was a ruthless, ruthless businessman and notorious for the labor disputes. And of course, the Haymarket riot, which was on the west side of Chicago, the modern labor union movement started in Chicago, and it started over on the west side. That's why they have a little park over there called Union Square. And in spite of the roots of the labor unions, the modern labor unions starting in Chicago, on May 1st, when people are celebrating May Day, there is no mention of it in Chicago. None at all. It's like it never happened. Oh, you saw the Orient Express video, huh? Beautiful train. Beautiful. Yeah. And there was like some huge disasters in Chicago that you never heard of. The Eastland disaster, which killed about 1,500 people. The Iroquois Theater disaster, which killed about 700 people. And of course, the one you do know of, the Great Chicago Fire, which killed about 300 people. Now imagine 700 people. That's like the equivalent of 2 commercial airliners, right? Or imagine 1,500 people. That was more people than the Titanic. About 1,200 died on the Titanic, and about 1,500 died on the Eastland. And this is what's really shocking, is that the Eastland, it didn't sink. It just rolled over. Half of it was sticking out of the water, but there were people, and lots of them, trapped below deck. And of course, back in those days, there were a lot of people who could not swim. And so about 20-something entire families were wiped out. But this was not a very large ship. This was like a little steamer that was used to transport passengers from one side of Lake Michigan to the other. That's it. But the Western Electric Company, which was, guess what, based in Chicago, they used to make the old Bell telephones. The Western Electric Company, they had this huge factory on the southwest side of Chicago. Huge factory. State of the art, huge. I mean, after all, they were supplying the United States with telephones. And so a lot of immigrants, a lot of migrants, immigrants worked there. And so to show their appreciation, Western Electric wanted to have a company picnic. They were going to go and take I think they had chartered 3 boats that day, 3 ships, to take the passengers over, I think it was to Michigan, to the state of Michigan or Wisconsin, for a company picnic. It was going to be an all-day thing. But the Eastland was designed in a way that it was very fast. It was straight, narrow, and they made it very narrow for speed. I mean, that boat could haul ass. It was very fast, you know, as boats, ships can go. So they were trying to pack people on those boats that day. Pack them on there, because after all, it wasn't just the employees, it was also their families. Those families piled up on that boat. And after a while, people noticed that the boat was listing away from the bank of the river. Well, actually, it was a big wall there, but the ship started listing away from it. And in a panic, people started running to the other side. But this boat, because it was so narrow, it was a poorly designed vessel. And so it always had these ballast issues. But they made it narrow because they wanted it fast. So once the boat began to right itself, people thought, oh, thank God. But it did not just stay straight up. It began to lean toward the wall of the river. And it kept going, and it kept going until it splashed into the river. And with, I think it was 2,000 people on board, which is extraordinary if you could actually see this boat. There were a lot of people that were trapped below deck, a lot of people who couldn't swim. And there were people standing around throwing ropes, and the few people who could swim were actually saving lives. But there was not a lot you could do. because most people did not know how to swim. And then get this, the ladies wearing those long skirts to the, cover their ankles. Now imagine dressed up in, this was what, 1915, July the 21st, 1915. So just a few years after the Titanic. So imagine you're in the middle of Chicago. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of people around, and you're a woman wearing your big hat, your long skirt and everything, and suddenly you're in the water. And those outfits you're wearing is just weighing you down because of the fashion of the day. And that was, a lot of people died because of that. They couldn't stay afloat. And so eventually, when they realized that they couldn't save anybody else, search and rescue started immediately. And guess what? They were able to save some people because they started using a blowtorch, and cutting holes inside of the hull of the boat, the ship, to pull people out before they lost the oxygen. But if you take a look at the photo of it, if you Google right now, you can just Google Eastland disaster, and you'll see this boat. Half of it is sticking up out the water. It didn't disappear. Chicago River ain't very deep. But the poor design, the overcrowded conditions was a disaster waiting to happen. Now, this is what is going to bake your noodle. Can you believe that they actually were able to salvage the Eastland? They gave it a different name. And guess what? President Franklin Roosevelt actually used it. Franklin Roosevelt probably didn't know it, but he was on the Eastland, a ship that's seen about, 1,500 people die. $1,500 people died because of the Eastland, and they straightened it up. They tried to fix the ballast issues. And another reason why it was so unstable, remember I said it happened after Titanic? Well, of course, they added more lifeboats, which took away the center of gravity. So, like I say, a disaster waiting to happen. And yet they were able to salvage the ship. And at some point, Franklin Roosevelt, I guess it was World War II, he actually sailed on the Eastland, but under a different name. Got a new member, Jawa Production LLC. Thank you so much for that. I'm looking for my bell. Oh, wait, I could do better than that. Thank you so much for the new membership. Now, the other disaster, since, we're talking about it, talking about Chicago's history, the Iroquois Theater. Of course, it was named for the Native American tribe, the Iroquois. I believe that one was probably the worse than the Chicago fire, worse than the Eastland disaster, even though it wasn't as many people that lost their lives. But I'm going to tell you what made it so awful is that the Iroquois Theater was full of not families, but women and children. there was going to be a Christmas pageant. And it was, something to do for kids at Christmas time. And this theater was designed in such a way that the very corrupt owners took a lot of shortcuts, especially chaining the exits so that people wouldn't, people would not sneak their friends inside of the theater and such. But I forgot how the fire started, but they had this asbestos curtain that was supposed to be deployed to prevent things from getting so far out of hand. And a combination of the curtains and the I think it was a skylight or something backstage caused like a chimney effect. And so when they tried to ventilate the building, it actually caused a backdraft. And so you have all of these people in the audience in a panic, right? Mostly women with children. And it caused a horrible backdraft, and a lot of people perished because of that. And there is a wall in the alley behind the theater that exists, that was built in its place. And you can still see the charred bricks. It's like if you're ever in that area, you'll see people walking down the alley and taking pictures and such, because that back wall of the theater, which, by the way, the theater was supposed to be fireproof, the back wall of the theater survived, even though they demolished it and gave it a new name. And the theater did reopen. That's the weird thing, is that it was built to be fireproof, but it was only built to protect the building, not so much the people. And the other crazy, ridiculous thing, you've heard this before, the exit doors opened in instead of out. I repeat, the exit doors opened in instead of out. I don't know how many times there's been some disaster like that, and the exit doors opened in instead of out. A lot of corruption went into the building of that theater. Now, stuff like that just should not happen. Selfridges in London is one of my favorite places to go when I travel to the West End of London. I have been frequenting it since I was young. My friends and I used to go there in the 70s. Very cool. Well, when I went to London the last time, I made it a point to go there. Because, I didn't know the story when I went to London the first time. But when I learned about Gordon G. Selfridge, I'm like, oh, I got to go there. I don't care if it's just a stationery or a pen. I got to buy something. But, and I love that clock that they have at the entrance. That is very cool. Okay, you guys, I see it's still 665 of you. Let's call it a night. Thanks for letting me share this information. I like history. I like to tell stories about history. I bet Legs knows a lot of stuff. Legs probably knew a lot of that stuff I was talking about. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, thanks, Heather Stroud. Good night, Lydia Washington. Oh, that was very thoughtful. Okay, cheers and good night. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Good night, moderators. Oh, by the way, that is the Marshall Fields department store the way it looks now, although they call it Macy's on State Street. But that huge building is the old department store, but this is like the newest part of it. There's actually a couple of smaller wings on the opposite side, but that is Marshall Fields. Oprah used to shop there when she first came to Chicago. She worked like a block away and she would just walk over to Marshall Fields. Too bad nobody stopped her. Oh my God, if you guys could see the way Oprah used to dress, fur coat, cowboy boots. Oh, it was a disaster. The day she got a stylist, I believe the world collectively had a sigh of relief because she was a mess. So gaudy. I remember the first day she announced she was taking over the local talk show in Chicago. It was New Year's Day, 1984. And she's standing out there with some cowboy boots and a fur coat. Looking like the Black Miss Ellie. Who she thinks she was? Yeah, looking like she fixing to go and confront JR. Tacky, tacky, tacky. Oprah put the tack in tacky. The day she got a stylist, that was a game changer. Because that woman did not know how to dress herself. But money changed that. Tacky. Okay, one last story. You see the clock, right? But guess what? There are two of those clocks. There's one on the corner of, what is it? Oh gosh, I can't remember the street. State and Randolph. And the other one is on State and Adams. Is that right? Anyway, when you tell somebody, let's say you tell somebody, meet me under the clock at Marshall Fields, right? Meet me under the clock at Marshall Fields. Well, which clock are you going to go to? This one? Or if you look to the right, you see where those flags are? That's half a block. If you keep going an equal distance from the flags to the other corner, that's the other half of the block. So are you standing beneath the right clock? You see what I'm saying? People say, meet me under the clock at Marshall Fields. Which clock? They have two identical clocks. Two of them. How do you know which one to go to? Just imagine someone who says, Like what was that movie with oh gosh, was it Deborah Kerr and oh, Archibald Leach? What was his name? Cary Grant? Yeah. It's a Wonderful Life. Was that what it was called? Anyway, remember when they were supposed to meet and that they had promised that they would, meet in the future? No, the clock is not on Wabash. Wabash is on the side with the trains. Both of the clocks are on State Street. That much I know. Both clocks are on State Street. And plus Wabash runs parallel with State Street. So it would have to be, it can't be Jackson. I know it's not Jackson. So let me see. I think oh gosh, what is that street? Is that Harrison? No. Wait. Harrison? Okay. Adams, Jackson. No, that's not right. Anyway, they're all President Streets. That's the other thing. Both clocks are on State and a President Street. So Randolph is that clock. And I believe the other block is Adams. Or is it Madison? No, it's not Madison. I think it's Adams. Could be Madison. Anyway, yeah. But the clocks are just down the block from each other. Monroe. Thank you. Monroe. Yeah. One clock is at Randolph and State. The other one is at Monroe and State. Thank you very much. And as big as that place is, right? As big as that's a very large building. It takes up the entire city block, a big square. They actually had another building across the street, across Monroe. They actually have a tunnel where you could cross over to Monroe underground and come out in the other building. Because they needed space for offices, so they put a lot of offices across the street. Okay, so Jackson, Adams, Madison, Monroe, Randolph. Yeah, I think that's the order. I think. And a fair to remember. That's right. That's right. And a fair to remember. Yeah, so just think, if you were supposed to meet somebody under that clock and you're standing at the wrong end of it, and if you got poor eyesight, you'll never see that other person. Plus, State Street used to get so crowded. How would you ever see them? You would never be able to see them unless you both started walking toward the other clock. You walk right past each other. Hopefully not. Yeah. That would be a mess. That's a disaster. Okay, good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you, Mod Squad.